The first attack has occurred. The police are now trying to lock the immediate vicinity down to control what's going on.
And what will the police be prioritising?
Well, first and foremost, they need to try and find the attackers if they haven't already, to identify exactly where they are. I think the concerning thing here is that if we cast our minds back to the situations that occurred both in Paris last November as well as Brussels, that there were multiple coordinated pre-planned attacks, and this bears all the hallmarks of that. So the first thing that police will need to do, and they're doing it now, is try and identify where the attackers are, and then second to that, to try and prevent any second or third, sort of fourth attacks occurring.
And it seems like the police are dealing with a well-planned attack on two potential targets, a crowded shopping centre and a metro station in the centre of Munich, potentially at rush hour on a Friday. How difficult is it for the police to deal with this kind of attack?
It's very difficult, primarily because there are so many people, as you say, it's rush hour, and also they've targeted places with a lot of people. And that's the intent, that's what terrorists want to do, that's how they plan their operations. But equally, the police and security services, I should imagine in Germany, follow a similar principle as is the case here in the UK, in that those types of areas have sort of planning and procedures in place to deal with this. And depending on what happened in the initial stages of an attack, which is where we are now, they will hopefully try to be as efficient as possible in evacuating as many people from the immediate area, as well as locking the situation down, conducting what's commonly referred to as dynamic lockdown procedures of particular areas, like, for example, the shopping centre, but also the streets, slightly more difficult, and metro stations, as you mentioned.
I spoke earlier to a witness who said that he had friends who were hiding on the streets of Munich, that public transport had been shut down, that they were waiting instructions from the police. What should people do in that situation?
Exactly what it appears they're doing from the account from your eyewitness, to be honest. Certainly in the early stages. Again, we saw, trying to learn from what happened in Brussels, there were some people who were at the airport, and after the bombs went off at the airport, they then chose to get the tube, which is clearly the wrong thing to do. What you need to do is get out to the immediate area and get into an area where you're safe. That might be the back of a shop, it might be your home, a hotel, etc. Because the police are now dealing with a situation, and they can deal with the situation much more effectively and efficiently if people are not out and about, and if they're stationary. That gives the police and the security services a much better chance of identifying where the attackers are and getting to the attack location, the primary one or secondary, tertiary attack location, as quickly as possible to deal with the situation.
Thank you very much for your thoughts on that fast-developing situation in Munich. Well, the British government is advising travellers to avoid the area. Sky's correspondent Jason Farrell is in Westminster for us this evening. And Jason, what is the latest advice from the Foreign Office?
Well, the Foreign Office, obviously advising people to avoid the area, but in terms of actually the incident itself, they say that they are urgently investigating an incident in Munich. They stand ready to provide assistance to British nationals. In terms of the Foreign Secretary, we've heard that Boris Johnson and the Defence Secretary, Michael Fallon, will be in the United States to attend a foreign ministerial counter-Daesh meetings in Washington, which may or may not be relevant to this, but that's what they are up to. We know from the past, obviously, in Nice last week, there was a COBRA meeting the following day to reevaluate security measures around public events. I suppose this isn't a public event, more of a public place where there's public gathering in large numbers, so perhaps there will be another one of those, but no formal confirmation of that. We have had a few political figures tweeting, so let's start with Jeremy Corbyn. He has said, shocking news from Munich, my thoughts with the people of the city at this time. David Lammy has said, yet more truly horrific news. My thoughts and prayers are with those in Munich and the emergency service teams working to keep people safe. And we've also heard from Tim Farron, leader of the Liberal Democrats. My thoughts and prayers are with the people of Munich tonight. All of Britain stands with you. And of course, as we haven't heard yet from the Prime Minister Theresa May, who was, of course, as you know, Sophie, because you were there in Berlin with Chancellor Merkel this week, discussing issues such as Brexit, as she and her predecessor, David Cameron, know. Often these meetings turn to talking about events like these and the kind of security and how people can work together to try and stop these things. It does seem to be almost happening almost on a weekly occurrence at the moment. Very difficult to keep up with the number of these kind of events that are happening. But we could expect, I think, in the coming hours a statement from Number 10 and, again, re-evaluation perhaps of security measures in the UK.
Jason Farrell, thank you. So just to confirm, multiple people have been injured and killed in a shooting that happened at a shopping centre in Munich, the German city. That's confirmation from the police. Spokeswoman saying that they believe that more than one shooter was involved in the attack at that shopping centre, and they warned as well that nobody has been taken into custody yet. Sky News has also confirmed there's been a second shooting at a metro station in the Munich city centre. A spokesperson saying that they believe that they're dealing with a shooting rampage. According to eyewitnesses that we spoke to a little earlier, people are trying to get out of Munich in vehicles because the transport situation has been shut down. We also understand that people are hiding in the streets in Munich, and there are also still staff remaining in that shopping centre in Munich. So they are safe, we understand, they are locked in, but there's still staff in that shopping centre in Munich, where according to reports, 3 people have died, and the police say to expect multiple casualties.
You join us here on Sky News tonight in the middle of a developing news situation in Munich, a shooting at a shopping centre in that German city. Local media there are saying that there are multiple deaths. One media source that says that up to 15 people may have died. The police are also saying that there may be more than one gunman involved. Of course, at the moment, this is still very much a live situation, and that no one is in custody so far. Also reports this evening of a second shooting at a metro station. Much of the transportation in Munich has been halted. That affects trams, trains and buses during the Friday rush hour. Let's bring in our senior correspondent David Bowden, who's in Sky News Centre for us. And David, as I was saying, very much still an active situation here with various reports coming out. Just bring us up to date on what we know.
Okay, so this is, as you say, an unfolding story, very much a live unfolding story. It's at the Olympic Shopping Centre in Munich. It started about 6 o'clock local time, which is a couple of hours ago now, and it looks like at least one, potentially 2 or more shooters in the shopping centre started certainly in a McDonald's fast food restaurant, shooting people, and then we don't really know what happened thereafter, except there were reports that 15 people had been shot. The latest we have from the Bavarian Interior Ministry is that 3 people are dead and a number of others are injured. As we look at these pictures now, you can see that there are effectively several strands of emergency service response. We can see on the right of the screen armed and wearing body armour police, presumably moving closer to the scene. And we've also seen lots of also armed but with no body armour, presumably moving the other way, police escorting people from the area and potentially from the shopping centre itself. But we've also heard that there are people who are still in the shopping centre who are taking shelter in the back of offices and shops to try and keep safe. We heard one employee had told the Reuters news agency that no police at that point had got to them, and that they were simply sheltering in their shop in the back room, and that a number of people who were in the shopping centre but clearly didn't work in the shop had run into the shop to hide. Now, we also know that a lot of the transport in and around this area of Munich has been closed down. That, of course, twofold. One, it stops the shooter or shooters using any of those options as a way of getting away, but it also means that people are not contained in these areas and potential victims. Remember, it's pretty clear that this was a well-planned attack, that it was targeted at the rush hour on a Friday evening when there would be a lot of people around, a lot of potential victims, and that, as we understand it, this gunman or potentially gunmen or women are still at large, and the police do not have this situation contained. They have a lot of officers, several dozen, probably hundreds by now, in the area, a number of police helicopters up, spying from the sky to try and work out where these people have gone. But if you look on the right of your screen now, you'll see what I was describing before. Armed police officers, but not wearing body armour, just ensuring that the people who are going to safety can get there without themselves coming under fire, and if they do, then clearly they can return fire. But as we've been hearing from a number of experts, this is the trained for but nightmare scenario for any city in the West at the moment. Relatively simple, get into an area where there are a lot of people with a weapon, with some kind of device, and then start shooting. And as we know from many, many similar attacks, the people who perpetrate this are not afraid to die themselves. And of course the police will be trying to keep the members of the public safe whilst tracking down the perpetrators, but also trying to ensure that they do not walk into any kind of trap, any kind of ambush, or any secondary situation. We know there has been reports certainly of a second shooting at a tube station, a metro station in Marienplatz in the city. We don't know whether that is directly linked to what is going on at the shopping centre, but clearly it's probably not a coincidence. That unconfirmed and few reports, but as you can see, many, many people, hundreds, potentially thousands of people being moved away from this scene as the police attempt to lock it down. But of course what they need to do is try and lock it down with the gunmen inside their ring. They don't want to lock it down when they believe that they may have escaped. So until and unless these people are found, contained, arrested or neutralized, then this situation very much ongoing.
Thank you, David. We're getting reports, and this is coming from Munich police on Facebook, on social media, saying that they believe there are 3 gunmen involved, 3 different people armed with guns. They're saying that they still don't have confirmation of the type and number of victims. They say they still do not know, and they say the police is with all available force, with the support of special forces, the federal police, and also other forces as well. At the moment, no perpetrators could be arrested. Let's get more on this. We're joined now by the international security expert, Dr. Sajan Gohel. Welcome to you, and thanks for joining us on Sky News. So, still very much an unfolding situation, but from what we're hearing, sounds like a coordinated attack across the city.
Unfortunately, it does seem to be like that. It seems to be synchronized, involving multiple gunmen designed to create chaos, panic, fear across a major city like Munich. They seem to have targeted very popular places like Marienplatz, like that shopping center, where they can try and kill as many people as possible. Of course, the ideological motivations still need to be worked out, but this does bring back eerie similarities to the Mumbai siege attack in 2008 and the Westgate shopping mall siege in Nairobi, Kenya back in 2013.
And, you know, at the moment, of course, this is still an active situation. We don't know who's responsible, but unfortunately it does have all the hallmarks, doesn't it, of the kind of attacks we've seen from IS?
Well, one fears that this is transnational terrorism, that this is a continuation of the attacks that we have seen over the last couple of months. It seems to never